From sunrise to sunset, recycling is more than a job. It's a way of life. Early mornings, late nights, hard work that turns the old into something new. Recyclers power the economy, and ReMatter is built to power you. Making those long days easier with smarter tools like scale ticketing, payments, dispatch, and everything in between. We bring it all together so you can focus on what matters most, growing your business and serving your community. Driven by the spirit of recyclers everywhere. ReMatter. Built for recycling. Built for you.
All right, we're back. Welcome to ReMA 2025, the live podcast. This one is about storytelling in the recycled materials industry. So we've seen over the last couple of years this industry coming out of the shadows, and in the context of sustainability and circularity and even tariffs, we've really got the opportunity to grab the narrative and make it our own by storytelling. So lucky for us, I got a panel of 4 incredible storytellers up here. I'm going to introduce each one, and we'll go from there, okay? How you doing, John?
Doing great.
Good. So John Nicely is an award-winning storyteller. If he looks or sounds familiar, it's because he was a TV anchor in St. Louis, Dallas, Charlotte, and Seattle, right?
That's right.
Nice. And John is now the owner and chief storyteller of Story on Purpose, where you help companies tell their stories. So tell us a little bit about your background and how'd you get started in storytelling?
Sure. So, background broadcasting, news anchor, reporter for 17 years. And I was looking for my exit from that world into the business world and wanted to be more on the, I would say, the offensive of storytelling, not just reporting bad news, which was often the case. And I got introduced in Seattle to the Microsoft chief storyteller. And I was like, first off, that's a thing? Microsoft has a chief storyteller? And it was an executive who, around 2010, had the idea to separate a division of storytelling that works with marketing, PR, and communications, but its own division. Then I got connected to Procter & Gamble's chief storyteller, and I thought, okay, this is a thing. So some of the best companies in the world value storytelling so much, and then a friend who's an entrepreneur said, you could go work for a big company or do this independently. And that's what I've been doing for the past 6 years, and getting to tell some great stories in the recycling space. They exist, and as we tell them well, it cuts through the noise.
Thanks, John. Next, we have Jessica Alexanderson, otherwise known as Scuba Jess. Jess, this is like your first time on stage at ReMA, right?
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
So excited for you to be here. So if you don't know, Scuba Jess is known in this industry because of her love and passion for cleaning up the oceans and diving. She also has an incredible contest that's nationwide. You've got storybooks for children. Rumor has it you've got a new cartoon coming out. So really, I want to know a little more about who you are, your can recycling contest, and how storytelling ties into your work.
Okay, thank you, Tim, and everybody for being here today. So my name is Jessica Alexanderson, which is way too long and hard to spell when you wear over 90 pounds of dive gear. I do underwater photography in Seattle, so I'm usually diving 2 or 3 times a week. And I started diving in 2014, and I loved it. It was a good way to stress relief. I worked at Evergreen Shipping for 15 years doing international container shipping, and I kind of went to this breaking point after 15 years. I'm like, if I don't leave now, I'm going to be here forever. And I knew I wanted to do something else with my life. And I knew I wanted to do something to help the oceans. And I had to start with little kids. And long story short, I basically teamed up with some amazing people. Brad Ridderbos from Scrap University in Detroit Scrap hired me to start a kids division of his company. And we started writing books to tell stories to little kids about how they can help our oceans and our planet, even if they're not near the oceans. And focus on one thing. Kids want to help. So we're focusing on aluminum cans and teaching kids that aluminum is recyclable forever and it has value. And if you recycle your cans at your local scrapyard, they'll actually pay you for it. And then I wanted to make it convenient and easy and stuff for everybody. So a lot of people won't go to scrapyards. They don't know about it or it's kind of far away. And so I decided to have scrapyards bring bins to school parking lots in areas of the country that have really low recycling rates. And the kids in the whole community fill up the bin, and then the school keeps all the money. And it's a contest, so it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear more, and so excited that you're here. Next, we've got a true professional in the recycled materials space, Beatrice Landa. We were on a panel together a few months ago, and it was wonderful. And I'm so excited that she's here with Jess, because really, at the end of the day, what Scuba Jess does is going to affect what Beatrice and the team at Novelis is doing. So Beatrice has a MBA from Wharton. She is the founder of Women in Novelis, a mentoring and leadership group for women there. And kind of fun fact, you were a semi-pro soccer player for a few years.
Yes.
Awesome.
A long time ago.
So now you're vice president of recycling at Novelis. And so tell me a little more. I mean, between Scuba Jess's stories, Novelis' own messaging, what are the practical effects if we can storytell and help people recycle more?
Yeah, thanks, Tim, for the invite here. So first of all, let me start with my profound admiration for everything that Scuba Jess does. If we had 1,000 Scuba Jesses in the world, we would probably be tackling different problems, so thank you so much. And then let me kind of just level set where we are with recycling. So the recycling rate of UBC right now is 43%. Over the last 20 years, we've been ranging in that 50%, and now we're dipping down to the low 40s. So honestly, if we compare ourselves to some of the other countries, for example, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, some of the countries in Europe, they're in the 90 plus. So we can do better. If I think about the consequences recycling could have in our society, I think there's three things. One is the sustainability impact, right? What's really impactful when you explain to a kid, for every can that you recycle, you could power a TV for 3 hours. And the reason is, when we use UBCs to make can coils, we're saving 95% of the energy that you would use if you use primary aluminum, and that's all the smelting and the mining process that goes behind it. So there's a huge energy saving every time we recycle. Second is, as Jess pointed out, there's a monetary component to these cans, right? If you're able to recycle and get organized, as Jess is doing with some of the new generation, you can get money out of that. And the third one, if I step back and look at the aluminum industry, I mean, when we talk to our customers on the can side, on the auto side, they're making decisions every day on what is the material of choice, right? For the auto, it's do we use steel or do we use aluminum or plastic composites? For the can makers is, do we use aluminum, do we use PET, or do we use glass? And the more we can support our customers hit those recycled content targets of 90% plus on can coils, the better we position aluminum as that material of choice. So overall, there's a lot of benefits to recycling.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And last up today, we've got Jeff Weld. I'm so excited that you're here. You handle all of the internal and external communications at Casella Waste Systems. Prior to that, you were in higher education for 15 years. And I actually saw the CEO of Casella Waste Systems give a speech where they talked about, in the past, all of their marketing budget went to getting new business. And acquiring new customers. But, storytelling isn't just about getting higher recycling rates or the societal good or getting new business. There's something else. So, Jeff, why don't you tell us a little more about what Casella Waste Systems is, and if you guys aren't dedicating the majority of your marketing budget to new business, where are you guys directing that?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I echo the others and really appreciate the opportunity to come today, and appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about what Casella is, because as I was mentioning, Vermont is a long way from San Diego, right? So understanding that who we are and what we do and level setting on that. So Casella is a company that was started in 1975 with a single pickup truck picking up trash. A couple years later, that realization that there was a lot of valuable material being sent to landfill that was not only causing the landfills trouble with compacting things like cardboard and other things like that, led to Casella establishing the first recycling center in Vermont in 1977. So really, from the get-go, recycling has been core to our business. Fast forward to today, we're in our 50th anniversary. We have over 5,000 employees, operations in 10 states on the East Coast, and customers in over 47 states now. So a lot of consulting work, a lot of getting into businesses, understanding what their waste streams look like, how we can add more recycled content to their manufacturing processes and eliminate waste on the back end. So they're paying less to send their waste out as waste, and then making a little bit of money on the other side and contributing to the circular economy. And Tim mentioned I spent 15 years in higher education. I did everything from coach basketball to admissions recruitment. It was basically, I defaulted to yes in my entire career in higher education. Could you do that? Yeah, I could do that. And then by the time I got done with my career in higher education, I was sitting in front of John Casella a lot because he was an alumnus at my university. And I was asking him for money to support things like the arts and athletics and other things, and really telling him stories about how his dollars could help generate the future leaders that were coming out of our university. And he and I developed a relationship over that period of time. And when I got ready to move on from higher education, I really think that he hired me because he was sick of me asking him for money, and he wanted me to come on his side of things. So I spent the first couple of years really looking at their marketing spend and really understanding, they were putting a lot of dollars, like everybody, right, into acquiring new business, selling commercial cans, selling roll-off, and all these other things. And on the back end, the people were being stretched really thin, right? So customer care was receiving a lot of calls. My can's not showing up. The drivers were having to really extend themselves and not really paying close attention to a real core value of service. So shifting the narrative, you can't just simply say that we're here to be of service to each other, service to our customers, service to our communities, without putting that foot forward. So we really sort of shifted a lot of that pipeline spend and marketing to a lot of storytelling. Who are the people doing the work? Who are we servicing? Who are we looking to come in? And what we saw was turnover rates go down in a company. They're feeling respected. They're feeling valued. We're putting more money into trying to get them help. We're putting more money into trying to tell their story because they're the superstars. And really, what the lift was, your service to the customer improves, so you don't have to spend that marketing dollar on pipeline because they already know these are the ones you call to get that best service. So it really, to echo a lot of what was said in the keynote, it's really about shifting the idea that, boy, if we pull all that money out of marketing, it's going to kill our pipeline. Well, if your pipeline isn't being serviced the way you want it to, then does it really matter? We thought the answer was no.
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, as this industry really shifts from the shadows and trying to stay out of the news to really putting ourselves out there more, what do you guys think are some of the biggest opportunities in storytelling for the industry right now?
Well, I think it's taking a step back and looking at things from a different perspective. We all are so entrenched in our industry, our business, what we do, how we do it for customers. We got to take a step back, and I love what Jeff said with Casella is they started asking the question of who. Who are we trying to reach? Who's the audience? Who's playing the part? And if you can do that, and the title of our program here is Outside Perspectives. If you can get an outside perspective, whether it's bringing someone in to help you do that, like a person from higher education into an industry that has a fresh perspective, or I've been working with Shapiro for 3 years in their sustainability efforts. What does that outside perspective do and shift how we can, what I call hidden in plain sight, stories that are often right under our nose that are going to drive business, drive culture, and we're not making stuff up. It's right there under our nose. We're just so close to it that sometimes we don't see it. And so getting that outside perspective in some way, shape, or form will present opportunities that are right there in front of you. And this industry has them. The story, you've been doing it for decades. Now we just need to shift the way we look at it and how we tell the story. We're not making stuff up. We're not putting lipstick on a pig. This is just the authentic impact of what we're doing in our communities and our environment. Don't get me started.
I mean, I think that's awesome, right? Like, this is all stuff that we were doing well before it was cool, right? Like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, it's in our blood, it's in our bones, right?
Right.
So let's take the flip side of that. What are some of the challenges maybe that we face in this industry right now with storytelling?
Yeah, I think from my perspective and thinking about how we tell our story, we do a lot of assuming, and I think a lot of that comes from, you know, if you think about discourse in this country especially, there's a lot of parallels to virtually any discussion, right? And I liken it to a simple bell curve of where you've got the people that hate what you're doing, they don't believe you, they think you're lying to them, they think recycling's not real, and they're screaming over here, and we want the people over here that love the industry to carry the water. And what we really end up having is these lobbed grenades over the top of 70% of the people who just want to be told that when I rinse my can out and put it in the recycling, it's going to get picked up in a Casella truck, it's going to get brought to a MRF, it's going to be recycled appropriately, sent out to an end market, and then turned into a new product, right? And they don't need all of the hyperbole, but we get so entrenched in worrying about, you know, what they're saying about this is wrong or this is, you're not doing the right thing, that we forget 70% of the people really just want to do the right thing. They really want to make sure that they can trust you, that your products and your services are economically and environmentally sustainable, and that what you say you're doing, you're actually doing.
Let's dig in there a little more. I mean, you know, we've all heard greenwashing, right? You know, as we're trying to market to the general public, right? How do you build that trust? Like, how do you develop that over time with people that aren't in this business every day?
I can go, I guess. So for my can contest, since we're focusing on aluminum, and I actually got to go take a tour of Logan Aluminum and see the cans get melted, and then I got to go to the ball facility and see the coils that they just made at Logan Aluminum get turned into 9 million cans every single day. Like, I got to see the whole circle, and so I love to tell that story to little kids when I go to schools and I talk to them and I say, who wants to help the oceans? And they all raise their hands, and I'm like, who likes octopuses? Who likes sharks? And I'm like, okay, even if you're here in Kentucky or like the middle of the country or not anywhere near the oceans, you can help the oceans by recycling your cans because of the 95% less energy savings that's helping with the greenhouse gases. And it's like, we're not making this up, like these are real facts. And it's fun to teach little kids and give them something really easy and fun they can do. And they're seeing it right in front of their eyes, and they're like changing their behaviors, and then they're gonna go home and they're gonna tell these stories to their friends and families, their parents and their grandparents, so that when they see their grandparents throwing a can in the garbage, they're like, no, what are you doing? Like, give me that can, I'm taking that to school. I have little kids taking cans to school on the school bus. And it's just amazing, and so it's really happening, and like the kids in our can contests have now recycled over 3 million cans in the past 2 years.
That's great.
So.
That's a big deal, yeah.
It's pretty amazing. I'm just so proud of them.
I think right, and it's real, and that's why we have to acknowledge when it comes to greenwashing that exists, and our audience has a level of skepticism, and I think the way to cut through that noise is data-driven stories that have components that you can prove. So audience, prove it. Okay, how can we prove it? Now shape it as a story, not just throw a bunch of data at them. And that's what Jess is doing every day with kids, and it's awesome.
It's tangible, it's real, they're seeing it, they're doing it, and you're starting young. Love it.
And I think the other part of that to just tack on is you have to acknowledge that greenwashing happens, right? It's not an everyday occurrence in our industry, but it does happen, and that creates a level of skepticism. And if you're unwilling to authentically stand up when maybe you did something that wasn't in line with your core values or your operational excellence, and take the bullets for that and then improve afterwards, then you're failing and you're feeding into that skepticism. So authentic storytelling isn't just about standing up and telling the best stories. It's about answering the mail when things don't go the way it occurs. And I had a mentor of mine early on in my career, and his keys to great crisis communications were tell the truth, tell it often, and tell it well. And that's all he cared about, was that at the end of the day, you're telling exactly the way it went down. The truth is there. You don't have to fake it. You don't have to remember it. And 9 times out of 10, that's how you build authentic trust.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Bea, this next one's for you. I want to circle back to the real-world implications of what happens when these rates go up. And what is Novelis doing now for its messaging to help it get more recycled material back into its furnaces?
Yeah, I think we're trying to hit every interception point. So if you think about the life of a can after it's been consumed, there's a point where the consumers can choose where to put their UBC. And usually it's a recycling bin or a waste stream bin. And unfortunately, 60% of the UBCs that end up in landfill are in locations that have a recycling bin. So there's some kind of messaging that's not hitting home, and it can be trust, as we discussed, or it can be education, but we're not making the right choice there. One of the things Novelis is doing is we're partnering with Habitat for Humanity, the stadiums, the teams, really trying to focus on our local communities to get that awareness and that education out there. If you go from there, you can put the can, let's assume best case scenario, we put the can into the recycling bin and it goes to a MRF. And Jeff might hate me for this, but there's some UBCs that are lost at the MRFs, right? We're partnering with technology providers, with MRFs, where we can see how many UBCs come in, how many UBCs after the eddy current are still there, and how many UBCs are lost in the last chance line. And the idea is to co-invest with these MRFs so that we can put the right technology there and capture what we're ranging between 10 to 25% of UBCs that are lost there, especially for those MRFs that have more manual or more antiquated technology. So that's best case. Worst case, the consumer puts that UBC in the wrong bin and it goes into a transfer station before it goes to the landfill. So here again, we're really doubling down on technology and on operators to try to rescue that UBC right before it goes to the landfill. And what's interesting is this business case finally makes sense now, because as we see these landfills get to the end of their life and be full, and it's really hard to get a permit these days, there's more incentive to everybody to work together to take the recyclables out and extend that life of the landfill. So really, I mean, I think there's a ton of good on education and awareness and really influencing behavior choice. We're working on that, but we're also working on technology and doubling down on more scalable and sustainable solutions.
Thank you.
I could never hate anyone trying to pull more waste out of the or recyclables out of the waste stream.
Casella's really good at that, by the way.
I would
100% accuracy.
I would lean into it a little bit and say we do have a contamination rate at our MRFs, right? And we do have anywhere from 12 to 15% out of our MRFs that are contamination rates, and that's really good nationwide, right? And so when you think about that, of those contaminants that are going into the MRF, probably 90% of them don't belong there. They should never have ended up there. Scrap metals, batteries, all these different things. So it does make it harder to recover those things that we want to recover and want to make sure. It's why we've invested so much money in our MRFs over the last 5 years. It's why we partner with the end markets to really make sure that we're meeting spec, because the economic sustainability of recycling this material is there, right? Everybody stands to benefit. It does us no good to deny that contamination rates exist at MRFs. How do we make it better?
You know, so in my business, right, like I work with industrial manufacturers. So if there's contamination, I can take a picture to the shift manager and say, hey, this is contaminated, and the employee then, you know, can make improvements. But you're working with the general public, right? And you mentioned batteries and everything else. Like, how are you guys trying to message what can and can't go in the bin at the end of the driveway to the general public?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely encourage everyone to stick around and check out Abby Webb's talk on Thursday morning. She's going to dive into this a little bit with some of the technologies and things that we're deploying. But first and foremost, in my world, it's about people understanding what that contamination is, right? Immediately, people are sort of inner workings are geared towards jumping to the easiest conclusion. So they hear things like contamination rates. They immediately think that this isn't being recycled, so why bother anyways? I'm just throwing it in the trash and being done with it. It's getting people to the realization that it's not that the material that can be recycled isn't being recycled. It's about make sure your batteries go to the drop-off location. Make sure your trash goes in the trash bin. Make sure your mixed recyclables go in the right container. And then we think about, okay, how do we message about what these things are doing? And in my world, in my opinion and experience, it's all about humanizing it, right? It does us no good to say, hey, if you throw a lithium-ion battery into the recycling bin, it's going to cost us millions of dollars to rebuild our MRF. Sorry, nobody cares. When a story airs and our general manager goes on to the news and says, 30 of my employees, 30 of your neighbors in your communities almost died in that fire, that's when the contamination rates, especially with batteries, drop. If you humanize the industry, if you humanize the challenges, that's when storytelling takes over and you can get to a place where everybody can understand it.
Yeah, that involves starting with who are the audiences and what's important to them. And that includes your team. That includes the lowest paid person on your team who's part of the recycling story, and that's a piece of low-hanging fruit that is often overlooked. Who's the audience? What really matters to them, and how do we find the intersection of our story and what matters to them? And that's where you see people pay attention and behaviors change and otherwise.
So we've talked about marketing outside the industry. We've talked about new business. What about internally, right? Like, what have you guys seen as an opportunity to message internally, whether that's a cultural shift or new values that you have as an organization? What have you guys done and seen that's worked to message within an organization?
Just to piggyback on what I was saying, working with Shapiro for the last 3 years, they're a 120-year-old industrial scrap metal company. True. They're also a sustainability company that's been around for 120 years, and they've leaned into that in the identity. So, challenge, enter a company that has people who've been there for decades, and they hear from the C-suite, we're a sustainability company? Yeah, sure. Well, how do you invite them in? It's telling the authentic case studies, the authentic stories of impact you're having. And so taking a company that didn't have good data on their scrap program, helping them get eyes on it to optimize their scrap recycling to a profit for the business that you're helping, so the Shapiro customer helping the customer, and then naming the team members from Shapiro that made that happen. I loved one of the stories we told of how these truck drivers were driving over the Appalachian Mountains on Saturday nights, making these extra runs to deliver this great win for one of their customers. But we got to name that. We got to let that truck driver know they were an integral part of this huge win that had an impact on the environment, an impact on the bottom line for the customer we're working with, and an impact as a team. And name the elements of our approach. At Shapiro, they have a find and fix the hard stuff mentality. So let's name that in the story. Tell that in a newsletter. Tell that externally to the customers as well. And then you start to create buy-in because people feel like they were part of it, and they were.
All right, well, I want to focus on Scuba Jess now for a second because you've got so much energy. You're out there. You're doing all this incredible stuff. The Recycling Society has taken off, right? The cartoon, the books. How did you get started on your storytelling journey in the first place? Like, what was the spark?
So I met Brad at Evergreen. He's one of my customers. Ships a lot of used car batteries and metal to be recycled all over the world. And so when I started working with him, he had the idea written for the Gorilla Recycle 1 million cans. And they're based on his two daughters, Ellie and Lexi. Ellie loves unicorns, and she finds out she gets money for the cans she recycles, so she decides she wants to recycle 1 million so she could buy a unicorn. So it's just a fun story that little kids can get into, and they're actually learning like recycling facts in the background, and we're teaching them how they can get involved and get their communities involved. And then it just kind of like exploded from there. And I remember when my book came out, I got connected with Novellis, and I sent a copy to Todd Ashton at Novellis, and he sent me a picture. They have a huge 10-foot tall robot named Fred made out of recycled aluminum, and he sent a picture of Fred reading my book, and it was just crazy. And so, and my book's now been on a NASCAR. PsyOps put it on, raced at the Talladega and the Indy 500, and it's just amazing. And then our second book, A Recycling Adventure to the Scrapyard, we have a big Senebogen right on the front cover, and you can see us over in the Senebogen booth. But just huge companies have like embraced our storytelling, and just love that we're teaching little kids how they can help the planet. And it's like explain it to me like I'm 4, right? And so if a 4-year-old can understand, anybody that reads our books can understand. And teachers always comment after they read our books, and they're like, oh, I didn't know you can make a can out of a recycled can within 60 days. Like, they're all learning things, and so it's a lot of fun. And yeah, and our 3rd book is almost done, Recycling Adventure to the Steel Mill. So we're going to go over the metal melting process. And then our cartoon pilot episode, Heavy Metal Elementary, is out now. It's on my website, recyclingislikemagic.com. It's on YouTube, so anybody can watch it and learn about recycling metal, and hopefully more to come.
Love it, love it. All right, well, Judy Ferraro is actually going to love this next question. So storytellers, one of the best things a storyteller can do is listen. So I'm curious, in your storytelling journeys, has there been anyone that you've been able to listen to that's been really impactful, that's helped shape how you do what you do?
I mean, I can jump in. I truly I believe greatly that great storytelling is empathetic, and everybody can have an authentic story. And the example that I would use in talking about my journey is thinking about who I am as a person, right? I grew up very blue-collar family. Father was a truck driver, mother was a nurse, and I was a first-generation college kid because I had no tactical skills like my brothers could build things, and I couldn't, so I had to make my way. So I can tell that story to a group of people that are looking at colleges and understand that there is an outcome after college, right? I can tell that story to a group of truck drivers and really lean into watching my father and his brother work until the job was done, delivering service for their customers. I can tell it to a group of mechanics and say, I can change a wheel seal, I can mount a tire. I understand the work that you do at a different level. Thinking about it that way, and thinking about, hearing people like Guy Kawasaki from Apple, who was, not the chief storyteller, but the chief evangelist for Apple computers. Thinking about building people from awareness to affinity to advocacy to finally just being an activist, that to me is how listening gets you there. Understanding what people want, how they interact with your story, and then building that trust and getting them to a place where you don't even have to ask them anymore. You know that the kid is like, don't do that, put that in there. That's activism, right? You don't have to say, hey, would you advocate for this opportunity? That's building people to a place of activism, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's a storytelling journey that starts with listening and understanding.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that point. I think maybe said a different way, it's about connection, right? And if you can make the story personal, and people can relate, and people can connect with the emotions and the situations, then it's landing, and that's when it's effective.
Yeah, and I'll say, bring it back to the idea that we have to be able, willing, and actively listening to outside perspectives. So when I work with teams now or give my keynote, I started off with this. This is a true story. In the last 18 months, I've had 3 different business advisors tell me, John, you're helping other organizations, companies tell their story, you're doing it well, but you're doing a crappy job of telling your own story. And it's like, wow, there's a smack in the face I needed to hear. I wasn't telling my own story well. I was too close to it. One of my advisors went through my website and just decimated it. And he was right. And I needed to listen to that. I needed to seek outside the box thinking, not just surround myself with yes men who are going to give me the thumbs up. It's good to get encouragement too, but who are we actively asking questions of that can give us some critical feedback, and how do we then listen to that and adjust the way that we're telling our own stories?
And I think everything communicates too, right? Jeff, in one of our conversations, you told me about a key contributor that you got, big important person to your organization that came to you because a sign on the side of a garbage can or a garbage truck, right? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's one of my favorite stories, first and foremost, because it illustrates the point that everybody starts from a certain place in their mind, right? And they'll build a bridge to the story they want to tell, right? So the story goes like this. One of our key contributors on the recycling operations side of things, she was in advertising sales for a large print media company. And as print media was going, she was laid off, and she was sitting out on her back deck, sort of wondering what was next for her. And she felt terrible about being laid off, right? Everybody internalizes that differently. She was taking it very personally and saying, I never want to feel this way again. My next jump has to be to a place that is insulated from these challenges. They cannot be a part of this. And it just so happened one of our trucks drove by, and on the side of it with our phone number, and it says, always hiring great people. And she internalized again, I'm a great person. That's a company that everybody makes garbage. Everybody has to do something with it. I'm going to call them. Picked up the phone, called customer care, had a lovely chat with a customer care agent. Didn't position herself for a sales job, jumped into an entry-level position, worked her way onto a truck, worked her way into a truck, worked her way into a management position, found a love for recycling, and now she's one of the leaders on our recycling operations team. And, you know, it is really indicative of, that wasn't magnificent storytelling on our part, right? I mean, it wasn't like, now we're going to tell her story, absolutely, because it resonates with a lot of people. Everybody goes through those hard times at some point in time, but it illustrates the point that great people are out there. They need to be introduced to things in a way that resonates with them. For her, it was easy. It was a sign, it was a garbage truck, and I'm a great person. For others, you've got to get them past that point. You got to get them to a different place. But I could talk about Rachel all day. A great ambassador for the company, and a wonderful arrow in my storytelling quiver for sure.
Love it. John, this one's for you. You know, as you're going out, you're looking at customers, right? You're looking at all kinds of customers. What really makes you excited when you're looking at somebody's story to tell, right? I mean, I'm sure you look at a lot of customers. What really gets you going when you hear about a company, you start digging in and say, this is going to be an incredible story to tell?
Well, the first step is to ask the company who they best serve. And then we have a process where we interview their best customers, team members, and gain insights from those customers, a story that oftentimes the company doesn't even realize is there, that they've been providing. So this just happened last week. I was in Dallas working with a new company, third generation family business and HVAC plumbing business, and did these interviews with some of their customers, and we edited down to this customer journey. And the woman who's in her 60s who owns the company, she was crying after the first minute and a half testimonial from her customer. And she was saying, oh, you know, thank you for doing this. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I'm just telling the story of the hard work that your company did to go above and beyond for this customer and fix something for free because of X, Y, and Z. And you did the work. And so now they get to reap the rewards. And so it's, what excites me is to kind of mine the data from the best customers. And that's what I'm saying. There's oftentimes stories that I call hidden in plain sight that are right there that you just need to ask. So this is something everyone can do in this room. Who are the best relationships that you have in your business? Ask them. Hey, what value do you receive from our relationship? And then just listen. They're probably going to say something that it's not going to shock you, but it might change the way that you rank the way that you interact with them, because they value this more than you realized.
I'm curious also, right, like as we think about messaging storytelling, there is more noise out there than ever before, right? I mean, just even think about AI and social media. I mean, really at this point, realistically, you can prompt and have an infinite amount of videos, infinite amount of content, all AI generated, right? It just is getting noisier and noisier. So how, when you're storytelling, trying to get your message out, can you cut through all that noise and really get to the people that you're trying to get to?
Well, I mean, I just think it's authentic storytelling that has meat to it, that has a data component. There's a component of proof that has a personal element to it, right? So we're telling people stories. All stories are people stories. Everything in our business impacts people one way or the other, and we have to really focus on that. And we as human beings, our brains are story formed, so it's why whether you're a fan of Star Wars, the Avengers, or Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, there's a storyline in there, and there's real people, involved. Not real people in the case of Star Wars and Avengers, but you get it. And so I think it's telling the people stories with, ideally, some type of data proof in the story. I think that cuts through the noise.
Yeah, and I think that to add on to that, when you think about what are the algorithms really good at, right? They're really good at understanding what content is resonating with people, so I'm going to serve them more, right? And that's what noise ends up being. So it's really about understanding what an algorithm is good at and how they can, jump in there, and how do you lean into that a little bit, right? Not necessarily always feel like you have to fight the AI machine or understand, but really understand, why is that an effective piece of content? Why are they able to get their message out, but we're struggling with? Everybody in the communications world, gets asked at least 10 times over the last 2 years, can you make this go viral? Like, yeah, sure, check, no. But if you're somebody like Jess with a great authentic story, it can't be done overnight. You have to put in the time, you have to put in the building blocks, you have to listen and understand what's resonating, and then keep going, right? You can't stop, right? The analogy that was made around baseball is an excellent one, right? Pete Rose has 4,000 hits. He has 15,000 at-bats. He didn't stop swinging because he missed, right? We got to be the same way.
Jump in real quick because he said Ichiro.
Jump in.
So basically, I told my story on LinkedIn, one post. I just say post on LinkedIn. I'm an excessive LinkedIn poster, but this one post basically changed my life. And I was at the Mariners game with Brad. He drove down from Canada, and it was Pearl Jam night. And so our book just came out, and Ellie, our main character, is a fan of Pearl Jam. She's wearing a little Pearl Jam shirt, and we're like, we're going to go. We had no idea what we were doing. We just started. We were like, we've never written kids' books before. We're going to go to the Mariners night. We're going to go to the Pearl Jam fan club. These people are all going to want to buy our book, right? And so then I posted on LinkedIn about how amazing the Mariners Stadium is, Safeco Field or T-Mobile Park. It was so green. They compost everything. There's recycle bins everywhere. Like, it was amazing. So I posted on LinkedIn, and I'm like, I just wish everywhere could be like the Mariners Stadium. If it's easy and convenient, people would do it. And I put a picture of me and Brad with my book, and that is how Can Manufacturers Institute found me. They found my posts on LinkedIn. They're like, what is this book? And they represent all of the largest aluminum companies in the world, and like, they changed my life. That one post on LinkedIn basically changed my life. So don't be scared to post. You just never know like what will happen.
And I think a key point of that post was, we come into something with oftentimes a motive, I hope to sell books at this Mariners game. The post wasn't necessarily about that, right? It was about authentic recognition of something great going on around you. And that's what brands can do. Recognize, tell the story of what's going on around, and then you can, subtly insert your brand, your offering, your product or service, but don't make yourself the star of your post.
Exactly.
Make the content interesting otherwise.
Yeah, totally. And just show what you're seeing around you, and like a fresh perspective. Like, I was new to the recycling industry. I was from the shipping world, and I'm a diver, and I just came in, and I'm like talking to Brad. I've never been to a scrapyard before. I didn't know any of these things, and I'm just like, cool, the scrapyard is awesome. Like, I loved it. I had the best time ever visiting it, but I'm like, your average soccer mom's probably not going to drive across town to bring a bag of cans. Like, it's kind of usually in a scary part of town. People only know about scrapyards from like movies when like there's a dead body in the trunk, or like the poor little toaster gets lost in the scrapyard or whatever. So I think I had this fresh eyes on the recycling industry, and I was like a total noob to it. And then I just came in, and I'm like, you guys, the recycling industry is amazing. Why aren't we telling this to everybody? Like, you can recycle your Christmas lights, you can recycle your old USB wires and chargers, there's copper inside, and people don't even think about it. They just instantly throw it in the garbage. And so, yeah, just tell your story. You can change the world.
And I think what's beautiful about your situation, Jess, and your story is, I think with, as Tim said, with all the noise that's in the world now, you don't know who to trust. You don't know what to trust. You don't know what's misinformation. So being able to leverage somebody who's authentic, who tells a story, who has no skin in the game in terms of, a remuneration or compensation, that's just doing it for the goodness, for the greater good. I think if you can leverage those sources of truth, that's a home run.
I trust Scuba Jess. I trust you.
Yeah, and if we can all just go outside and pick up 5 pieces of litter a day, that'd be fantastic. Just saying. I see it all in the ocean when I dive, and it breaks my heart. And we can all make a difference. Like, if you are in the parking lot and you see a Twix wrapper, just pick it up, wash your hands, you'll be fine. If it's this creepy, rusty needle thing, then don't get that. But just be safe, use your brain, and like, don't ever throw your cans in the garbage. Like, if there's one thing you've learned out of all of this, just please recycle your cans.
So I've got one final question for everybody on the panel, but before I do that, I cannot let Scuba Jess get off the stage without telling everybody how to get involved in the can contest and how to actually be part of this, because I'd like to do a panel again in 5 years, and Bea's up here, and the recycling rates for cans went through the roof. I mean, so I'd like that to happen. So tell everybody a little bit how to actually get involved with what you do.
Thank you for this question. I'm freaking out. Everybody's been telling me, so I started in April of 2022, I just hit my 3-year anniversary, and everybody's like, you should have a nonprofit. And I'm like, okay. So I finally started a nonprofit, Recycling Society. I have my treasurer out there, Zach, in the audience. But we basically rolled our Million Cans Recycling Contest into the nonprofit. So anybody can donate $5, $100, $5 million, whatever you want it, whatever you feel like. But all this money is going to go to schools all across the U.S. Currently, we have, last year I had 8 schools. Now I have 18 schools. Next year I want to get to 50 and slowly, gradually build my way up. But that money will go towards the 3rd graders. All get a free copy of the book, The Girl Who Recycled 1 Million Cans, so they can bring it home, read it to friends and family. They have goals within the school, so when they get to 75,000 cans, they all get a pizza party. If they get to 150,000 cans, they get bonus money. And so anybody can donate. This money will all just be going into the nonprofit, and we just want to keep expanding to areas that don't have curbside recycling or the lowest recycling states. I know I shouldn't be telling this because we're announcing the winner on Friday officially, but breaking news, the top 3 schools in the can contest, I won't tell you the winner, but the top 3 are West Virginia, Pittsburgh, and Kentucky. So it's just pretty amazing. And I would love, if anybody wants to have a local school in their town, you can go read the book to the kids. If you don't want to have a huge bin in the school parking lot, just have them crush the cans, put them in a box. They're going directly to scrapyards. So you're allowed to crush them. Anybody can do it. It doesn't have to be, it's super easy. So just call me, recyclingsociety.org. You can email me. I would love to chat.
Thank you. All right, last question. This one's for everybody. What's one tip or piece of advice or actionable step you'd leave the audience with as they start their journeys with storytelling?
Yeah, seek an outside perspective from yourself, probably your industry, and ask your best customers. Ask your best customers what they view your story as. And you're going to gain some gold nuggets out of that. That's low-hanging fruit you can start to use to better tell your own story.
Yeah, what he said. Just be yourself, and just don't be afraid to show others how they can help and get involved, and like, just adopt your own block. Go out there and make a difference. Like, the news is so depressing all the time. Like, there's big, huge, scary things going on that we can't control, but we can control what we do. We can go outside with a bag and some gloves and pick up some trash, and you'll feel a lot better at the end of the day.
I'd say make your stories personal, relatable, and that can connect.
Yeah, and I think my one tip is always to humanize everything, to really start internally and work externally. I've been a spokesperson for a university, now a spokesperson for a company traded on the NASDAQ. I can tell you that PR is everyone's job. It's not simply the spokesperson's. The number of people on the street that have access to the C-suite or the spokesperson to get their information is very low. They're going to your drivers. They're going to your frontline workers. They want to know what's happening in your operations and your industry, and they're going to tell them their truth. And if you're not doing a good job internally of telling their stories, telling it often and telling it well, then that truth is going to get misconstrued. And the last tip that I try to give everybody, the best market research that I've ever been able to sort of formulate in my head that everybody can do is to go out to your local shops, wherever you are. We have 140 locations. Take a poll, ask the question, do you leave your work jacket on or do you take it off before you go into the grocery store? That'll give you an idea of how your employees feel about working for your company. Do they want to be asked what's happening at Casella in their local grocery store by their neighbors, or do they not? And if they don't, why is that? If they do, what are they excited about? And that, to me, is everything. You have 5,200 spokespeople in our company. Empower them, engage them, and let them tell your story authentically, and that's how you move the needle incrementally.
Love it. Well, I hope you guys see how you can use storytelling and leverage it to help make the planet better together. I want to thank the panelists, I want to thank ReMA, and I want to thank you for listening. Have a great day.